Well, good afternoon. Welcome to BWI Marshall Airport again. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm pleased to join Maryland transportation leaders to highlight the importance of Real ID and to provide important guidance for Maryland residents. As you've heard time and time again, we're committed to working every day to make BWI Marshall the most convenient, comfortable airport for our customers. Our top priority remains safety and security for our passengers. Real ID is an important security measure needed for safe, efficient travel. As the busiest airport in the capital region, again, as the busiest airport in the national capital region for both passenger and cargo traffic, BWI Marshall Airport is an important transportation resource and economic development engine for the state and the entire region. Last year, BWI Marshall surpassed nearly 19 million passengers. We know that's down from pre-pandemic levels, but it's still a remarkable recovery. We expect that figure to grow this year as we continue to recover from the pandemic. Summer will be here in only a few short weeks, which is our peak travel period, so we know demand for air travel will continue to grow. Passenger traffic will continue to rise as our airline partners add and resume domestic and international service. The number of people passing through this airport, through our checkpoints, particularly this checkpoint behind us, will remain on the increase. So this makes this even more important that our customers get through their flights safely and efficient. So Real ID does just that. Once Real ID is fully implemented in 2023, travelers must have the following to go through an airport security checkpoint: a Real ID compliant license from the state of Maryland, from Chrissy Nizer, a Real ID compliant license from another state, or an alternate acceptable identification such as a passport or passport card, a DHS trusted traveler card, or a permanent resident card. Other acceptable forms of identification can be found on the Department of Homeland Security's website under Real ID. Without any of these items, you may be required to go through an additional security checkpoint measure, which might pose some inconvenience for you and those that are with you. So if you cannot provide an acceptable form of identification, again, you will not be permitted through the security checkpoint here or at any other airport across the country. So we want to make sure our passengers are prepared. Having Real ID compliant product can ease and reduce the time it takes to check bags at an airport terminal counter and a TSA checkpoint. It can make your travel experience much less hectic. So we appreciate the partnership with our federal, state, and local partners for this assistance, for their assistance in ensuring every customer is Real ID ready when they come to BWI Marshall Airport. So now, I have about a page of introduction for our Transportation Secretary. I want to introduce Secretary Jim Ports to come forward. Governor Hogan named Jim Ports as Secretary of the Maryland Department of Transportation in January of this year, the culmination of more than 30 years in public service. He has served in transportation leadership positions at the local, state, and federal levels, and as a member of the Maryland General Assembly. Secretary Ports oversees MDOT's 6 transportation agencies and leads operations of the state's highways, bridges, toll systems, transit systems, motor vehicle licensing, the Port of Baltimore, and BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport. So I want to thank you for your leadership, and I present to you Secretary Jim Ports.
Thank you, Ricky, and good afternoon. Welcome again to Thurgood Marshall Airport. Not just the best and the busiest airport in the region, actually we believe it's the best in the nation. As he mentioned, I'm Jim Ports, Secretary of Maryland Department of Transportation, and at MDOT, it's our mission to provide safe, convenient, and accessible transportation to connect people to life's opportunities. Today, we're reminded by Marylanders to do their part so that they can continue taking advantage of one of our major modes of transportation, which is flying. Real ID was passed by Congress to implement a nationwide security standard after 9/11 terrorist attacks, and on May 3rd, 2023, passengers who want to fly through BWI Marshall Airport, or quite frankly any airport in the nation, will be required to present a Real ID compliant license or other form of accepted identification that Ricky just went through, to get through the security checkpoints and to board a plane. Now, I want to make it clear, if you do not have an accepted identification, you will not be able to fly. And today marks less than 1 year, 364 days, until the federal deadline goes into effect. And as Ricky said, we want to ensure every Marylander that walks through these doors with the intention of getting on an airplane are prepared to do so. MDOT Motor Vehicle Administration has done a tremendous job so far, assisting nearly 87% or more than 4.2 million Marylanders to obtain a real ID. That's one of the highest compliance rates in the nation and well above the national rate of 49%. However, there are still many Marylanders who need to become real ID compliant prior to the deadline. And I can tell you that Administrator Chrissy Nizer and her team at MDOT MVA are willing and very able to help you. To be real ID compliant, every Maryland resident is required to have one proof of your age or identity, one proof of social security number, and 2 documents that prove that you're a Maryland resident. And like with all other in-person services at MDOT MVA, you'll need an appointment to complete this service. And the good news is that there are plenty of appointments available within a few days, and in some branches the same day. So make your appointment, get your documents together, and Chrissy's team will get you in and out fast. Sort of like BWI, easy come, easy go. And while you're there getting your real ID, you can also enroll in TSA PreCheck. That's a service that MDOT MVA branches has, and the services that we have, or locations we have, are Annapolis, Glen Burnie, Frederick, Gaithersburg, Salisbury, and Ward-off branches. And customers who sign up for TSA PreCheck can keep their shoes, their belts, their light jackets on, leave their laptops in their cases, and 311 compliant liquids and gels in their carry-on bag. So it's quite an advantage to get TSA PreCheck. Everybody who flies in or out of BWI Marshall knows it's the friendliest, most convenient way to fly. At MDOT, we're all working together to make sure it stays that way. And once federal real ID deadline goes into effect, we want to make sure you're ready. So we want you to get where you want to be quickly and easily. To do that, we're asking all Marylanders to be prepared and plan ahead. If you're not real ID compliant and want to fly this time next year, 365 days from now, make that appointment to get your real ID. With that, I'll turn things over to MDOT MVA Administrator Chrissy Nizer.
Thank you, Secretary Ports. I want to first start by recognizing our customers who have gone above and beyond in becoming compliant with Real ID even before the deadline was originally pushed back. As Secretary Ports said, the fact that our compliance rate is 87% is really a huge accomplishment, and we're so grateful for Maryland residents. And that percentage will only continue to grow as over 200,000 Marylanders are due to renew their license between now and the Real ID deadline in May 2023. And the approximately 176,000 customers who already have their documents on file with MVA can get that new license with a star without actually even coming into the office. They can do that conveniently online. But we want to make sure those remaining customers outside of those categories are aware of the upcoming deadline and that they understand the requirements for Real ID and know the tools that are out there readily available to make an easy process to get a compliant product. The good news is there's still plenty of time, and we've implemented a lot of measures to try to make it easy to reach our goal of premier customer service. In 2020, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security modified the requirements to get a Real ID after Congress passed the Real ID Modernization Act. For Maryland residents, that means that those who already have their Social Security number verified with us are no longer required to provide their Social Security card when presenting documents. Additionally, in March 2020, we began a program with the Maryland Department of Health Vital Records Division to allow Maryland-born customers to obtain a copy of their birth certificate right at the MVA branch office and have it printed. The service is available at the Annapolis, Baltimore City, Essex, Frederick, and Largo branch offices and fulfills a document requirement of proof of age and identity. To date, we've had more than 1,600 customers take advantage of this convenient transaction. If you're unsure about your Real ID status or what you need to provide, you can sign up for your MyMVA account on our website at mva.maryland.gov. MyMVA allows customers to access their driver license information, including that Real ID status, as well as their vehicle registration information, and view any correspondence that MVA has sent to them. It's also through MyMVA that will notify customers who need to present documents and help provide you with those next steps, whether it's to make an appointment or to order that updated product if you already have your documents on file. As May 3rd, 2023 approaches, we'll continue to try to think of new ways to assist Marylanders and expand these successful services. So if you're planning on flying next year, as both Ricky and Jim had said, start thinking about getting real about Real ID. And there's no need to wait if your travel plans are in the future. Under a law passed in 2021, driver's licenses are now eligible to be renewed 12 months in advance of that expiration date on your product. So that provides you plenty of time to be able to renew well in advance. Because of that law, over 180,000 Marylanders can get their Real ID during their normal renewal period and only pay that standard renewal fee, not to have to pay any additional fees. If you need direct assistance, please reach out to us. There are many avenues through social media, our call center, as well as just emailing us to make sure you have everything you need. I'm confident that Maryland residents will be among the most prepared in the nation when that deadline goes into effect next year. Thank you very much.